I'm going to start with a question. And that question is, inside of here, how many of you know someone that has passed away but still has an active Facebook page or Instagram, Twitter, social media? Wow, that's over half the room. That's amazing. So today we're going to be talking about that and talking about the digital legacy that surrounds that. And we all leave a legacy. That legacy that we leave behind is a physical and emotional one, whether it's, what we were just talking about with the veterans. Is it something that they're passionate about and they leave the legacy of always supporting veterans, right? Or is it the fact that your legacy is going to be built around your family or the things that you have worked so hard to do in your lifetime? That legacy is going to live on with your family forever. But now we have something new to leave behind as well, and that's the digital footprint. The digital footprint of your legacy now exists. My grandparents, they passed away in a time when there wasn't really a digital footprint to be made. They passed away when they didn't have a smartphone. They didn't have a Facebook page. They didn't have a Twitter page. They didn't have this thing called the cloud, right? That synced everything up. When they passed away with the clear slate, basically. They didn't leave any trails. And what's so interesting with this generation, when they have started passing away, is that you can no longer quickly with your smartphone look up and hear their laugh again, or hear your grandmother accidentally burning herself on the stove and saying a cuss word and saying, "Oh, I said crap," or your grandfather's jokes, or you can't get that back. But what's unique is with this generation, my sister passed away 6 years ago to breast cancer this month. And her digital trail exists because she was heavily active inside of social media channels. Inside of these social media channels, I can remember the times when we checked into the Dallas Cowboys game, when we went 9 years ago on a cruise that you see. These are recent memories that are built inside of her digital time capsule. And those are the difference between these two generations. And that's what we're going to dive into and really talk about. But here's the thing, though. She connects me on days that I need her the most, when I need that inspiration, when I remember my best friend. But she also connects with me on the days that I'd rather not remember the pain of going through that fight along with her with breast cancer. So we remember things that we want to remember, and we remember things that we don't want to remember. But we live now in a time when forgetting is no longer forgettable because of what we call the digital cloud. You have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have iPhotos, iPhone, iMessages, iWhatever, and you know that list is going to continue to grow. Apple's not going to stop innovating. All of that stuff is going to continue to be captured in the cloud. If you have an iPhone, it automatically syncs up to the cloud. If you have a Samsung 7, hopefully it hasn't caught on fire today, but it will sync up to the cloud. These devices are peril into capturing our digital legacy. The days that we beckon to be forgotten are the days that we don't post on social media or capture with our cell phones. An example is, years ago, social media used to be thought of a platform where you could post your thoughts of a negative day or post your thoughts of some kind of frustrated moment. But today's society is starting to remember, oh my gosh, this stuff is going to come back to me. And so we don't usually post that stuff anymore, which is a great accomplishment, because what we're moving into now is, now that we know that Time Hop is going to remind our family and remind us of what we have done, is that we typically post achievements. We typically post when a child is born, or when a grandchild is born, or when you got a new job, or something exciting. We post that inside of social media. When we post that inside of social media, and that is going to stick around forever. Not just that day, I'm literally talking about forever, especially when you pass away. When my grandparents, when they passed away, I had one thing that I absolutely loved. It was a time capsule created by my grandmother. And my grandmother did it by hand, and it was all the way from when I was born all the way to 18 years old, and she did it by hand with a photo scrapbook, basically, a photo journal. And she had Alzheimer's, but when it came down to remembering family, because that was her legacy, is family, her details were so exact in the family details. This was her way of capturing that time capsule for me. It was that way to make me go through that journal every single year, maybe once a year, to remind myself of where I came from, who I am, where I come from, and who I am supposed to be. That's different in today's world because it's completely different. We have access to that information 24/7. Screens are sometimes our best friends and sometimes our worst friends of remembering our legacy. We create this digital time capsule by a lot of the icons that you see on the right-hand side. Here's the thing, though. You're not going to recognize every single one of those icons, right? But the person next to you is going to remember or see different icons versus what you see. But all of it syncs up inside of the cloud and will remind you every single day of what you did in the past, but more importantly, your loved ones that have passed away, of those connecting points. Here's a real-life example. This real-life example is happening, present time. My friend Amanda, she just had a little boy, and this little boy, before the boy could even open his eyes, started creating a trail, a digital trail. Before he even opened his eyes and before he even left the hospital, this beautiful child already had hundreds of photos inside of the cloud, hundreds of photos, maybe not on Facebook just yet because she hasn't uploaded them yet, but they existed in the cloud. And then you have the iCloud starting to match the face to recognize it in the future, to start matching those profiles up. Before she even left the hospital, this child, beautiful child, started to have a digital legacy. And it was something for her to remember, but it's also for something for him to remember the day that she passes away and gives that trail. We all are against the biological clock. We know our clock is ticking. We know that one day we are going to pass away. We are going to have to leave a physical, emotional, and yes, digital legacy for people to look at for decades to come. And it's not just years, it will be decades. That's why, of course, in the old world, where we have living trusts and estate plans, we have wills. I have an exact format of when I pass away, how my company continues to move forward, how my employees are taken care of, how my nonprofits that I care so much about are taken care of, and how my family are taken care of. But I also wonder those specific moments of, and I'm probably overanalyzing too much, but this is reality, is what will be my last tweet? What will be my last impression inside of this life? When you go to those people that raise their hands of somebody that you know that has passed away and still has an active profile, you are going to see their latest post, right? Their most recent post. I think about that a lot. But you also have to remember, I own and operate a data and technology firm, so I love data. But I also realize that every one of you, whether you're in this audience or at home, will start analyzing your digital legacy just a little bit more based on this conversation today. It is important that the digital legacy is taken care of, just like your other legacies are taken care of. Here's an example. And maybe, this is maybe my OCD kicking in a little bit. But this is my iPhotos, a tagged location. Something that I absolutely love is traveling this world. And so if somebody goes to my Facebook page or the cloud and click on locations, they're going to see tagged locations everywhere across this world. So I think about, if somebody comes to my profile after I pass away, are they going to say, wow, he really traveled, he really loved to travel, and he did it? Or are they going to say, wow, he was pretty pretentious and used the God's blessing of what he had to travel the world? It could go either way, of course, but I'm hoping for the first one. But I go, oh my God, do I need to hire a PR firm? Do I need to start getting a public relations strategy in place so that I can tie all the knots? That's probably a little too extreme, right? But think about this. This was literally 2 days ago. One of my friends posted this message right here. Happy third birthday, Beckham. I know you can't read this, but other people will, and they can share in my joy of you. This love message, this love bomb, is something that Beckham can't read right now, but as decades go on, Beckham will read this. Beckham will have access to this inside of his Time Hop or inside of his Facebook Remembers or inside of his iCloud. Beckham will remember what Trey told him and shared so much about. You know, I don't have kids just yet, but I often think about when I leave a digital legacy, when my child needs me the most, whether that is a interview or sending their kids off to college or whatever it may be, to have my digital trail inside of their pocket so that they can grab and find inspiration for what they need on that specific day. And that specific day is something that I think about often because they will be following your trail. That trail is not going to ever go anywhere because it's going to live in the cloud for a very long time. And that cloud exists for our benefit. It's something where I want to remember my grandparents so badly, but when I go back and look at my sister's profile, I can hear her laugh, but I can't with my grandparents. It's a true science of where innovation has come. But here's the thing, is that actually there are companies built around this generation dying off based on the technologies that we have today. There are companies that are built to, when they are notified that you have passed away, that they will send a last message out, that they will update your Facebook, they will update your Twitter, they will update your LinkedIn status, whatever that may be, they will push that out to a message that you may have always communicated, but you wanted to reemphasize about how much you love your family and how they should stand strong and what they should be for, or who they should be when they grow up, right? Or you might decide to post something that you thought kind of slipped away due to time. There are companies that are making a lot of money with that, but I think it's essential. So one of the questions is, would you send out a final message? I think that's something that you're going to be thinking about in the future. Another example, true life example, is Casey, which I viewed as a younger brother of mine. He passed away at a very early age in his early 20s. And Casey left an entire digital media trail for his mother, his dad, and family to be able to look at and go through text messages, photos, look at it, have his iPhone, look at the music that he used to listen to. All of that stuff is in the palm of their hands. But the question is that I cannot answer today, but when is this all going to be too much? I don't have a PhD. I actually have a degree in meteorology, so that doesn't help out. But let's say, for example, that the generation that we live in today is a big test tube. It's a big test tube. Is what we have inside the cloud that reminds us of our loved ones going to add to our depression? Is it going to increase depression rates? Or is it going to energize us to go out there and fight for breast cancer, fight for Donate Life, fight for whatever that may be? That is something that needs to be analyzed by a PhD and not by a meteorologist, but we have many people inside the test tube today. And that is something that we are going to have to analyze. So how do you prepare yourself to leave a digital legacy? Well, number one, when my sister passed away, we actually do not still have her username and password for her Facebook. And Facebook, in 2009, Mark Zuckerberg, very smart, decided, you know what, we should actually do something about this. So you can actually set up a legacy contact inside of your Facebook, so when you pass away, and there is confirmation that you have passed away, the legacy contact will gain and access your information. Access your information. So make sure that your private messages are not, say anything negative about this person. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to be accessible. Also, another thing that Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg did that was very smart was set up memorialization pages. And these memorial pages here have been active since 2009, but I want to ask a quick question. Has anybody, how you raised your hands earlier about somebody that still has an active Facebook page? Or is any of them memorial pages? Have you seen the memorial pages? Yeah. There's only about three of you that said yes. That's because it hasn't been fully accepted. We don't trust Facebook to handle our loved ones the way that we think they should be handled. I like the way that I remember my sister today, because I have those private messages going back and forth. I have those check-ins. I have those tagged photos. But when I do this, what happens? That scares us. So it has not been widely accepted, but it is something that's out there. And that is something that is going to continue to grow as we grow and put trust inside of that. Innovation has taken place in an economy that does not currently exist. That's what I was talking about with those companies out there that are increasing the hours of, like this one right here, Everplans. They have it set up to where you go and put in your username, your passwords, you give legacy contacts, you talk about that last message that you want to post, and not just focusing on those wills and those trusts that typically we do. My lawyer called me the other day and she said, we really need to revise this because it's been a few months, etc. And I said, well, what about my digital trail? And she said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, well, we're going to have to educate you a little bit because I'm doing this little TEDx thing and I'm going to have to tell you about it. So there is education, but there's also legal fees that are going to ensue. Hours are going to increase, right? But that's a new economy that's coming about. The thing that makes me, and this is my PR strategy, is I did live in my 20s. I did go to college. There's a lot of things on my social media profiles that I'm pretty embarrassed of, as everybody is, right? I mean, I thought about going to politics one time, but I have a digital legacy. I don't think that can happen. So there are things in there that I hope somebody will go in and delete quickly when I pass away. You know, I'm reading a book right now, and this has nothing to do with this TEDx, but it says in a paragraph by James Sawyer, they say that a man's life flashes through his mind's eye as he dies, that you consider all of your regrets, all of your mistakes, people important to you, frozen moments in time, those events that make a man who he is. But today, in today's age though, that flash lasts forever. And so I encourage all of you to set up a legacy contact. I encourage all of you to think about your digital legacy, and I encourage all of you to start including passwords and information inside of your wills. But I'm going to leave you with this. Think about what happened to this one, and think about how you can start capturing your information from Facebook. Thank you.